I was going to get an icon pass this season, but then got really into baking. I don't miss the mountain at all. I don't. Why would I? Just got to fill that void.
Hey, good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Conservation Alliance at-home breakfast, and happy Biden administration. My name is Brady Robinson. I'm the Executive Director of the Conservation Alliance. Today, we discuss the state of Bears Ears with Vice Chairman of the Hopi Tribe and the Co-Chair of the Bears Ears Intertribal Coalition, Mr. Clark Tenakhongva. At any time during this webinar, you're going to have the opportunity to submit questions about Bears Ears or the Conservation Alliance or the Bears Ears Intertribal Coalition. To do so, you should be able to see the questions box under live discussion, and we're gonna have a staff member from each organization monitoring that chat box, and we'll address as many questions as we can during the session. We're gonna be recording this webinar, and we'll share the link after the event if you want to watch it again or if you want to share it with anybody else. So thanks for getting up early. These digital events, of course, we're all in different time zones, but even though we're not in person, we hope that we live up to the promise of arriving tired and leaving inspired. So I'm going to talk just a little bit about the Conservation Alliance before we get started. Conservation Alliance harnesses the collective power of business in outdoor communities to fund and advocate for the protection of North America's wild places. And we couldn't do this without the support of our members. So even though we're going to call out our new members today, some of you have been members with us since the very beginning in 1989. And your continued support is why we're able to do what we do. So thank you. And today we want to welcome some new members. And we're welcoming Spruce Power, Elevated Independent Energy, 10 Barrel Brewing, Atmos Financial, Amari, Snowpacks, Chef Soraya, Dometic, Righteous Felon Craft Jerky, Gelvio, Prime Gear Direct, Wild Nature, Rumple, Wholesome, Nomadics, Astronaut Foods, Bell and the Whistle, My Climb, and Colorado Spice. We'd also like to thank our Pinnacle members. These are members that have gone above and beyond and give at the $100,000 level or above. Bank of the West, Merrill, Patagonia, REI, Keen, Cliff Bar, and the North Face. If you are part of a company who is not yet a member, you can certainly contact us and we'd be happy to help you to become a member. Connor McLeay handles membership for us. He's great, and so drop him an email and we'll get you going. To save time and make things a little more fun and dynamic this year, we've put together a video going over the highlights of 2020, both for our grantees and for the Conservation Alliance. So we hope you enjoy this. So, what's in store for 2021? Don't we all wish we knew? But I can give you a few things from our perspective. We look forward to working with the Biden administration and our grantee partners to protect North America's wild places, including, of course, the Arctic National Wildlife Refuge, the boundary waters of Minnesota, and the Bears Ears region of Utah. We hope to give away even more money in 2021. We have a target of increasing our grant making by 10%. We're going to be making investments in our policy and communications teams. And we're going to continue driving membership expansion, both within the outdoor industry and in other industries as well. We believe at the Conservation Alliance that our value proposition, the 100% pass through of our membership dues to our grantees, vetting grassroots environmental grant making, employee engagement, leveraging the voice of business for conservation through education and advocacy. We believe that these value propositions have a broad appeal both within the outdoor industry and beyond. We also embarked on our JEDI journey recently, and I want to share a few thoughts about that. We know that there's a huge responsibility that comes with distributing money, and funders may unintentionally reinforce systems of oppression through grant making. So we're committed to understanding the dynamics that are at play in conservation philanthropy so we can help to break this cycle of injustice. This is just one of the reasons we're making changes to the policies and programs that have been in place since we were founded in 1989. We also understand that enjoying remote wild lands and waters is too often an exclusive experience for people who feel safe in such places or who have the means to access them. And we acknowledge that these wild places that we now call our public lands were first home to Indigenous people since time immemorial. So for the first time during our last grant cycle, we asked applicants to submit a letter of support from one of their Black, Indigenous, and people of color partners, if applicable. This is a small step for us in broadening our connections to BIPOC organizations working in conservation. It's our sincere hope that we'll begin to forge many of our own relationships with these organizations over time. Sharing ownership and power, that's one of the main lenses through which we view our JEDI work. And for us, that means diversifying our board and staff and inviting others into our organization and our decision-making process. And we acknowledge we have a long way to go in that, but we've begun and we're committed to seeing it through. I also think that these concepts, sharing ownership and power, are applicable to public lands. How do we share ownership and power over these lands? Collaborative management is one way, and we may learn more about that today. And so with that, I'd like to introduce our first speaker. Kayla Carter is the lead advocate and public land specialist for the Bears Ears Intertribal Coalition. Kayla manages the coalition's engagement on public policy and with agencies and NGOs, and serves as the project lead in the land management planning process. She knows a heck of a lot about these issues, and she's going to start us off with an overview. So Kayla, thank you so much for joining us this morning. And I'm going to hop off.
Thanks, Brady. Good morning, Conservation Alliance. Happy to be here today. Brady suggested that I start with a refresher on how we got to today with Bears Ears. And, you know, I think perhaps a lot of you, like myself, was watching some of the inauguration special last night. And despite the fact that I probably skew on the more pessimistic side of things, Ken Burns and Tom Hanks saying that we should cleanse the last 4 years and start anew felt almost tantamount to a benediction. So happy to be here on this morning after the inauguration, and happy to give you an update as of what we're now expecting. But I'll start in 2010. So around 2010, the conversation started developing amongst some of our member tribes about how to protect this vast landscape in southeastern Utah. And it started with conversations informally. It started by actually engaging with some of the local politicians, some of the Utah delegation, They let us on a little bit, but that continued. The mapping process took place. The bonds between the tribes further strengthened. It led us up to a culmination in 2015 when people decided that requesting national monument status from the Obama administration at that point in the game may be the best way to protect Bears Ears. The request was made, and December 28th in 2016, one of Obama's last actions as president was 9558. He proclaimed Bears Ears a national monument at 1.35 million acres. But we know what happened next. Trump was installed in office, and only 5 months into his term, he instructed Zinke to do a review of the monuments. So at that point, it was signaled that something is going to happen. Fast forward now another 8 months to Executive Order 9681. Trump illegally slashes Bears Ears to something closer to 201,000 acres. So upon that happening, tribal leaders came back together. They had the first meeting all together again about 6 months after Trump's proclamation. And they were really discussing how to orient themselves with a hostile administration, how to weather the storm. So, something that was already in the works days after Trump proclaimed the downsizing was a lawsuit. So that was already in the pipeline. But they also, had very obviously been cut out of the management of Bears Ears, despite Obama's proclamation instructing the agencies to look to the tribes as collaborative managers. They hadn't been contacted at all. So in this meeting in May 2017, the discussion was around what to do, and several prongs developed to sustain during the Trump storm. One was the litigation, continuing the fight. That's still going on right now. Number two, and I want to spend a little time on this, is because they had so unceremoniously been cut out of the management planning, they decided to develop their own land management plan from each of their tribal perspectives. This would be in anticipation of a time like now when the political winds shift back and they are back at the table. A third component, and this is something going to be probably very obvious to you all, was a business case study that was started in collaboration between Headwaters Economics. We had an assist from a environmental economics professor at Yale School of the Environment to lay bare a lot of the lies that are used about the missed economic opportunities when public lands have added protections. Many politicians in the West in particular like to say that we are wasting our public lands when we preserve them for the public. They'd rather use it for mining. They'd rather use it for grazing. And we embarked on a business case study to test that hypothesis. I don't think it has been released yet, but there's no surprises in the results. And then the fourth prong is something we were hoping to start last spring, but had to put pause, is a cultural ranger program that starts bringing youth and elders onto the landscape to talk about what would be culturally appropriate conservation. And we're just beginning this, so it's a pilot project at this stage. But the long-term goal would be finding ways for elders to pass on culturally appropriate conservation techniques to youth, and to then find a way to create a path for tribal youth into managing their ancestral homelands. So those are the things that really the conversation in May 2017 became sort of seeds of projects that the coalition has been working on since then. And a lot has gone on, including COVID, which has really ravaged a lot of the tribal communities that we serve. But let's bring it to today or yesterday. We have a new president. We anticipate that he will make good on promises he has made to restore Bears Ears. And, you know, as of yesterday, he didn't do the restoration action yet, but he is instructing the Secretaries of Agriculture and Interior to review the boundaries. And we are very hopeful that in the next few months, there will be even bigger news about Bears Ears. So that's a lot of timeline, and I'd be happy to answer. I'll go to the chat box as soon as I'm off. But why I'm really here is to introduce Vice Chairman Clark Tenakhongva. And I'll take just a minute because I don't get to do this often enough. Vice Chairman Tenakhongva is a true Renaissance man. He's a veteran. He's an elected official. He is a traditional knowledge holder that keeps the fires of Hopi culture stoked. He's intent on passing it on to the next generation. He speaks Hopi fluently, obviously, and maybe even closest to his heart, he's a singer. And he sings of the places like Bears Ears and the Grand Canyon and the stories of his people and the connection to this place. So it is my honor to introduce you, Mr. Vice Chairman.
Lolma, Bakwai, Jangapi Tayep, Yasan, Talanganaya, Yepuman, Chanay, Guanguaya, Yepumumi, Iconeka, Nahalaiti, Yepi Tawa, Lolma Tangan, Jangwaikan, Puyep Katama Takneka, Lolma Puyepitangan, Putak, Putangita and Shapipu, Tawa now it Pupians and 90%. Good morning, everybody. It is certainly a pleasure to be here before you all as the audience that's got your ears perked up, listening in to the conversation and the dialogue that we have here in front of you. It is indeed an honor to represent our people from the center of the universe as what we call today the Hopi Nation. My name is Clark W. Tenakhongva. I come from the village of Hotvilla, 12 villages comprised with the present-day Hopi. I am at the Rabbit and Tobacco clan. And my reason, not just only as a tribal leader, is the reason of Bears Ears is very important, not solely to just me, but to our people, is that our clan, our people, made the trek through this region many, many years ago. And what was presented here by Brady and Kayla, a little short script of what it is, why it is important in America today. Yesterday was another historic day. We just put the two top officials for the nation in seat, in position to lead this nation into the next future. 4 years is a short time. And I talk about it from my own experience. I'm on my last 10 months in this administration. 2016 I decided to become one of the tribal leaders or start my endeavors into politics. Never in my wildest mind did I ever think that I was going to be involved into tribal politics. But as issues arose, I knew there was a calling that I needed to answer to try to best address it for the needs of our people and this nation. So I was elected vice chairman in 2016. And what Kayla said is that it's very true. What was brought there by the president at that time, Mr. Barack Obama, was to the pleasure of all the 5 tribes and other Native Americans that were involved in this endeavor. A long journey that which we followed through. It was at that time that we thought we had something successfully in the favor of our people. Very short-lived. A new president comes along, basically takes the piece of paper, crumples it up, throws it in the trash can, and that's the end of it. Yesterday and all this week, I heard many messages. And one of it that came across the bow, as I could hear it, was that the word unity, the word respect, the word about each and every one of us history counts in the nation as we walked upon this land today. As a relative of those individuals that made the trek through Bears Ears, we have many stories. If you look deeper into the context of why it's very symbolic for us, is that throughout many centuries, throughout many years, throughout many trials and errors, the Hopi tribe and other people that have made that message and made that passage through there as far as laying their footprints, many of it is not on a piece of paper. If you look at the rock art, we let our stories there as far as the petroglyphs, the rock art. The most important that is to Hopi is many of the remnants of what we call the kiva. There are pictures of some of the areas that some of the kivas are still what they call in exemplary fine conditions. And those are the place of what Hopi and other Pueblo people hold in high significance. Many of you are familiar with the word church. Many of you symbolize that as a place of prayer, a place of worship, a place of life. The kiva is very similar to that, maybe at a higher significance. Why? Because that was the first church that was established here prior to the coming of the newcomers from the new lands from the East Coast and abroad. We knew the coming of the white man. We knew the coming of other people that will be walking this land later on in life. But we did not expect that to the devastation of what this culture would do to the land. As what was explained, what has happened over years, vandalism, destruction of some of the most perfect, iconic places there in southern Utah have been destroyed to mining and other ways of destruction by modern man. Do we realize the importance of this land? Are we looking at it as just as a content of revenue? Are we looking at it as a content of land that holds significant value in the form of not money, but in spirituality? This is how Hopi views Bears Ears. We call it Honmurja, place where the Bear Clan made the trek through. And in order to hold that area in high significance for Hopi for later, which I did not realize I would be giving testimony before Congress and today before you of the education, we left one of our relatives there. It was a bear. That is why the mound there, the hillside, resembles a bear laying down with the ears perched. That is what it is, Bear Mound. To the east of it around Cortez and other areas that is called Bear Mountain. So we made the trek through there many, many years, way before the coming of any other culture or religion that came through there after us. But today you can look at it. Our whole landscape, our history is cut up into many, many, many little pieces. Do we still hold that significance? Yes, we do. Our ceremonies are still tied to these areas. Our ceremonies, our songs come from these regions. One of the most highest religious ceremonies of Hopi is called the flute ceremony. They mention in their track to present day Hopi is that is a place they name in some of their songs. So it is not a forgotten region. We also have other places that we hold in high significance. Mesa Verde, Chaco, out to the east, Aztec ruins, further south, all the way into Mexico. We have tracked as far as northern regions into Canada. You can see the petroglyphs that signify the same resemblance what is there in Bears Ears today. How many of you can track your history back many generations? I know, not looking at any documents, nothing in black and white, but just knowing historically who and what I am as a Hopi, I am proud to say I am part of Bears Ears. Other tribes like the Zuni, other Pueblo tribes that can connect with Bears Ears, they know the significance of this area. One mention was made recently on MLK Day. Comment was made saying that America was made on the backs of slavery. I find that to be true. If it wasn't for the Native Americans and other tribes and other ethnic people of brown in color or black in color, America would not be what it is today. Everybody had a part in the making of America today. We were so honest and so open to others, meaning sharing of the land, sharing of the wealth. We allowed the destruction of what is today, what we have to fight for today. Unfortunately, our battles are not on the land today. All our battles are fought within the judicial or justice system. Currently, there is legal systems going on as we talk today. The lawsuit which we had to file against President Trump. I was in office on a Monday, December 4th. I remember this. Coming into office, coming before Tribal Council. Native American Rights Fund was at our door, asking if the Hopi tribe or myself could sign off as one of the co-signers on this legal to file against the Trump administration. Little did I know where this journey was going to take me. As time went on, a week later, I get the final documents. Lord and behold, what does it say? In the District Court of the United States, in the District Court of Washington, D.C., it says the Hopi tribe, Clark W. Tenakhongva, Vice Chairman, versus Donald R. Trump, President of the United States. The fourth day of my administration. That is something that I will never forget because the number 4 in Hopi is very significant. We look at that as our timeline. Every 4 years, every 4 days, every 4th month, the 4 cardinal directions. These are some things that we will never forget in the history of who and what we are as Hopi and other Pueblo and Native nations. Never in the history of America has 5 tribes or other tribes united to get into a legal battle with the United States of America. This is the first of its kind. Why? Because we believe Bears Ears is so significant. Look at the petroglyphs. Look at our story. A lot of it is a mystery to others. For us that have the knowledge, for us that have the teachings, we know what they mean. The bluish color right here on the slide, that's a special pigment that's used representing the blue waters, the blue land. That is what we hope for every year. Prosperity to continue into the future. We are not just common people. We are gifted people. Given these values, given these tools to survive in such a hard, arid land, to farm the land. Today, Hopi is still known as the best dry farmers in the world. I still practice that today. I still practice my culture, my religion, the few words that are shared with you all in Hopi. So we are connected to Bears Ears. The story cannot be told in 20 minutes. It will take days. It might take even years, because every one of us that's been affiliated with Bears Ears, clan-wise, family-wise, we all have our stories. I see that often, the lineages of family histories, how you all are connected to Europe and other nations. This is the same. Hopi has a place in this part of the world. Bears Ears is a prominent place that should not be destroyed. I just now read the state of Utah is declaring that the government is a takeover of their lands. Let me remind you folks, who was there first? Did we allow the state of Utah to take over our lands? There was no permission. Today, what Kayla says is that we are working collaboratively with one another to do a careful land management with both the state of Utah officials, people that have been elected to the highest office in the nation, Congress, Senate. I've met with Senator Ramey. I've met with Congressman Curtis. We have the same values. We understand each other's, that there is a need for protection, that there is room, that we can work together, unite, and make a better promise, make a better living for tomorrow's future. As you can realize, globally, everybody is going green. That's how Hopi survived. Prior to the arrival of the new production of oil, minerals, and so forth. If we can do it thousands of years ago, I believe we can go back and do it again. There's no need for mining. All I see it is a big land grab. Everybody is in this just for their own, not realizing, again, America was founded on the backs of Native Americans. If we were not so humble, if we were not so open to allow others to share this land, America would never be where it's at. Yes, maybe every one of the Native Americans would have been probably abolished by now if we continued the wars. But we knew better. We had to work in unison with one another. There's been many promises that's been made to Native Americans throughout this whole United States of how many treaties have the United States made with each one of us tribes are still standing. I believe none. None of it that I can honestly say. Who can tell me to my face and others that they upheld their trust responsibility? We are now not immune from this epidemic, the pandemic. It's like everybody else throughout globally. We're wanting to survive. Honestly speaking, as a small nation of 10,000 people, we've lost over 200 people from March until December of this last year. Of that, 80% were related to COVID. So we are a small nation. And the same thing happened throughout our history of our lifeline to Bears Ears. And so with you, people that are listening here today, I hope you honor why our reasons are very important to this place. What it holds in significance is the history of America, the founding of America. Why is it that we're here? So when you go out there, enjoy the landscape, respect it. Respect it is all I can say. How would you like it if I came into your backyard and trashed it, vandalized the church that you worshiped at, vandalized the petroglyphs of your history, destroying the history of your life history of where you came from as a family? This is our history today as we see it in the modern day era of America. Unfortunately, we may not see eye to eye. We may not have the same value system, but yet we do all want to live. We do all want to have a future. We do all want to have to breathe the same air, drink the same water that's not contaminated. These are some of the simple values that Hopi looks upon every day. Praying for rain. Yesterday was a good sign. It came in with the administration being sworn in. Snowstorm came in Washington. Snowstorm came to Hopi. And we expect more to come in the more of moisture. Maybe this is a new beginning. I don't know. I may belong to a certain party, but yet at the same time, do I trust that party? Politics don't belong in Hopi as far as Democrat or Republicans. I'm a Hopi first. So that is what I mean. Regardless of which party is in administration, it's never been to the benefit of Native America. It's always been to the benefit of others that are outside the realm of Native America, but yet the land that they walk upon belongs to us and the Creator. Maybe we don't donate enough money to their campaign. Maybe that is the reason why, but yet we're allowed to vote. We weren't allowed to vote as far as the Hopis until the 50s. So all these things is unfair, but yet we look at it. Today, why is it that we're here? And I ask all the people that are viewing this today, respect our land, respect the area, and if you're really seriously concerned, educate others that are coming upon the land. Come upon it with respect. If you're walking the land, as they say, you bring in the trash, you take out the trash. Do not vandalize the area. Do not do no rock climbing, rappelling, so forth. All these things we are teaching to the youth. As our elders from here from Hopi have made many, many trips there, noting that ever since it became public notice, it's become more and more frequently visited, not just from people from the United States, from globally. So there is a unique way that we can all unite. There is a unique way when we can enhance this place. Everybody can enjoy, everybody can benefit and read from the, as far as the, what we can, from what we can do together. You, as the outdoor retailer people, will benefit from people purchasing your products. With the protection from lands of this nature here, we can benefit for everybody here in America, the preservation of this land. Let's support one another. Let's understand each and other's needs and our shortcomings. Rather than dwelling on whose rights it is, rather than dwelling on saying that you're intruding onto my land. But the part is that let's go back in history. Let's go back in history and say, why am I here? At whose allowance are we here walking upon some sacred land of some other people? Many documents are being done today. A good picture here, picture of the perfect kiva, which I testified to there in Washington, D.C. It took this picture to get the attention of Congressman Bishop, who is one of the most arrogant men that I have ever associated with in my lifetime. It doesn't matter if you're brown or white. If you don't walk his principles or walk his talk, you are not part of his circle. This is what I mean. We all have our perimeters as far as who and what we should be. So this is a fine example of a Hopi church, a Pueblo church, much like what happened. What happened in Washington on January 6th was a total disgrace to this nation. Everybody got concerned. Everybody's coming to heed the warning of the terrorists. Our own country people destroying something that's very symbolic to each and every one of us. This is how I look at the value of the kivas and other structures that are still left there, intact in Bears Ears. So with our group, as the coalition, we ask each and every one of you, look at it on a different side. Look at it on the two face value, not just one direction. There are reasons why we are all here today. And I want to thank each and every one of you that have participated in the dialogue, in the talks of today, that I hope what we presented to you is of importance, of unique importance in American history, that we can start working forward as a collaborative effort to start respecting each and everyone's boundaries, the history of what has happened here in America, the destruction that has happened. Why? It's all in the name of greed, power, and control. But this must stop. There must be a reason why we all came here to this world and were brought to this world by the Creator. So I strongly believe there is opportunity for each and every one of us to excel in the best way that we know what is best for all humankind. That we are all brothers. We are all brothers and sisters. We bleed the same blood, brothers and sisters. It's called red blood. There is no blue blood. There is no white blood. There is no yellow blood, but it's all red. And all we're looking for is to make a connection with one another, recognize the importance of who and what we are historically. And again, thank you. Thank you again for allowing me to be part of this panel. We will be open for discussions later on, but I will take important questions that I believe that I can honestly answer with no restrictions, as some of this information of what you may be asking may be privileged information only to us Native people. I wish you all well. I wish everybody well, that we unite and go forward. May there be greener pastures in the future. May we get rid of this COVID that's here. We save more people, that we look at life in a different way. This may be a lesson that we need to address here today. Thank you. Kwa.
Thank you so much, Vice Chairman, for joining us this morning and for sharing your perspective, your story, and the story of your people. We're waiting for some questions from our audience. I have a few questions for you right now. Something that I referenced at the beginning of the breakfast was this concept of collaborative management or co-management. And I wonder if you could just briefly speak to how the tribes have been involved with managing these lands in the past and how you would hope that they're involved in managing them in the future.
I can speak for the Hopi Nation, is that we do have a cultural preservation office here, along with the advisors, along with the elders, and with the youth. Our hope is that when we go back and start documenting and making sure that all the entire area is protected, how it should be managed, what areas of restriction, what areas are open to the public, and so forth, the education that needs to come along with the constant visitation by non-natives, why it is important of what I shared here earlier. Those are some of the areas that we will be coming into, the importance of the plant life there, the importance of the structures there, the importance of the rock art there, and what it holds as symbolically, spiritually for Hopi and other native tribes. And that has never happened. This is the first of its kind. Yes, there are national parks, but who did the management plan? It was always the government. There was no Native American involved into the management plan of what is highly significant and what can be allowed to be viewed.
Vice Chairman, we've got a question from the audience. What is your goal for the Bears Ears? What's your vision, the long-term future vision for this landscape?
My vision is that regardless if I'm not here as sitting as a co-chair for Bears Ears on the coalition, is that I will continue to be involved as a Hopi citizen, as a private citizen, as a clan member that went and made the track through Bears Ears. I will be continually involved to make the development and make sure that I'm hoping that the lawsuit that we have filed in Washington, D.C. will be looked upon a favorable decision rendered in behalf of Bears Ears Coalition. And to look further than that, I hope this administration, when I talked to, at that time, Senator Harris in Phoenix, was that don't forget, Bears Ears is very important to Hopi and other nations here from the state of Arizona, that they rescind this executive order that President Trump did and replace it with a permanent order that nobody will undo into the future. That has to be by the act of Congress, is what I am looking forward to somewhere in the future. I hope that will happen.
Vice Chairman, you and I are both sitting in rooms in front of our laptops, and we're not getting a whole lot of interaction from our audience, but I just want you to say that there's a lot of accolades coming in the chat box, thanking you for your perspective, thanking you for spending time today. So our digital audience is very much appreciating what you've had to say. Another question is, how can the audience in our communities, the outdoor industry and these individuals on the call support you and stand in solidarity with the Bears Ears Intertribal Coalition?
One thing I asked earlier, which I did also last year or a couple of years ago when I made the presentation there in Denver, was that we have to work unitedly. If we're promoting such activity as outdoors and so forth, then I ask from all the retailers, all the individuals involved is that whatever they promote out there is educational, and the word respect, because these lands are sacred. Look at the beautiful canyon walls behind you. Where in the world do you see this kind of scenery? Do we need to put pitons into the rock walls? I don't believe so. Can we enjoy the canyon walls without having to do rock climbing and so forth? Is this something that we can cohesively, collaboratively work together to make this something, a tangible product for all to enjoy into the future? We've destroyed a lot of beautiful landscapes throughout this nation and throughout the world. Why? In basically, I would say, the self pleasure of, like, a good example, Mount Everest. How many people track that big, huge mountain? Who does it belong to? It belongs to the country people of Nepal and other areas. Same thing with McKinley. Who was there first? It was the people that resided there in Alaska. Same thing needs to start being spread educationally, that if you're visiting these areas, please respect, and to help us promote this unity. If there is somewhere that on some of the material or equipment and so forth that Bears Ears can be an emblem of, that could be utilized, that would be greatly appreciated, because we both benefit from it. The proceeds from it goes to the company. The advertisement of the area is in protection of the landscape of what we're currently talking about in Bears Ears, to help promote videos as such, education for others to enjoy that may not have that opportunity to come in and actually walk the land of southern Utah.
Vice Chairman, thank you for that perspective. And before I worked for the Conservation Alliance, I worked for an organization that advocates for rock climbers, the Access Fund, and that organization is one of the litigants to protect Bears Ears. And so I can say this, that the issues of recreation and where it's appropriate are things that I think the recreation community looks forward to working with the tribes on during the management planning process. And I can say this, the outdoor recreation community and industry is very much with you, with the Bears Ears Intertribal Coalition, and looks forward to working on some of these sensitive issues and resolving them in a way that respects the landscape and respects the wishes of the Intertribal Coalition. There's more questions coming in than we can possibly address. I have to do it though, Vice Chairman. Can you tell us a little bit about your musical career and where we can find some of your songs? I think you're on Spotify, or I mean, you really are a Renaissance man. Can you tell us a little bit about your musical career?
It all started by me being, well, again, volunteering at our local radio station, and that's where it transpired from. But I started recording professionally in 2002 with a record company called Canyon Records out of Phoenix, Arizona. And so I released 4 albums through that company. All 4 of them made it through what they call the Native American Music Awards. And they've won awards throughout this nation and globally. And also the last one, which I released in 2016 through Canyon Records, I had the opportunity to be in LA because it was nominated for the Grammys. And
wow.
And the last one I did was something that I did with in conjunction with 2 other individuals. We did a project to protect the Grand Canyon. So the recording was done at the Watchtower there at Grand Canyon. It's a live performance. It's a 1-take deal. We went in there at 7 p.m., got out of there like 3 a.m. in the morning. But with the video and kind of like a music video that we did along with the educational part of the music, It's been shown in various areas, and it's won 5 movie awards so far. Been shown on PBS and other networks, but you can find me if you Google my name under that name, Clark Tenakhongva, the 5 albums that's currently there, or if you go under canyonrecords.com, you can find that, and it's on Spotify. It's on other networks that are on even in Europe. That's being aired as we speak. And I come to find recently that Korean Airlines also plays a lot of my music. They're
Really?
flying Korean Airlines from Korea back to United States. Yes.
Well, thank you for that.
It's been a.
Yes, go ahead. Sorry.
And so that's been a short-lived story of mine. But since I came into office, I haven't had the opportunity. But I did do some. I'm still doing some composing at this moment, but it's something for the future that I'm leaving open that hopefully I'll be able to share with the public again. But a lot of music that I have done is solely in Hopi to maintain the language, the history of our people, and the connection to the land and the importance of our culture and our ceremonies and such. And so a lot of the songs also relate to those areas as we speak today of Bears Ears.
Thank you, sir. And we are, Vice Chairman, running out of time. And so we're going to talk a little bit about one thing that's very tangible that our community and that our audience can do in the chat box, or also there's a Bears Ears business support letter that you can see right underneath the video you're watching right now. You can click on that. And we ask that all the companies, our members, and anyone watching, and any company that's interested, take a look at this letter and consider signing it. It is important that the business voice and the recreation voice stand up and tell their story. And by calling attention to the value of these lands for business and for recreation, by no means, in my view, means that is the most important value. But by building a broad base of support for Bears Ears, I think is one of the best ways we can support the Bears Ears Intertribal Coalition. And the Biden administration did issue an executive order to review the boundaries. And by signing on to this letter, we can support the administration, we can support the tribes. And I encourage you all to do that. And with that, Vice Chairman, once again, thank you so much for joining us. I'm sorry that we weren't able to address everyone's questions. We'll do some more of that in the chat box. Vice Chairman, do you have any final thoughts for us?
I want to thank everybody the opportunity to share a little bit of the reasons why Native Americans, Hopi, and other tribes have been actively involved in this scenario, again, of our lives. And I want to strongly ask you to support our actions, the reasons why, and to make sure that somewhere along the line, America is united as one, not as as what they say is that we're the bread bowl of the world, but as a place where we can all call home, as a place where everybody is welcomed, that we are all different, no different from one another, but we are all brothers and sisters that I support, and I hope that our future will be a little bit more different from here on, and that I ask that we have all ourselves in prayers as far as how we're fighting this pandemic at this time. And I love you all. Thank you. Take care. Be safe. Take care. Mask up. Sanitize. And we will see each other somewhere down the future. Go quiet.
Thank you very much, Vice Chairman. Thank you for your leadership. I hope to get the chance to meet you in person someday. Thanks everyone for tuning in. And with that, we need to sign off.
Thank you.
So this year, I thought, why not get into shipbuilding instead of getting an icon pass? I just find shipbuilding so relaxing. Definitely don't regret not getting an icon pass. Shipbuilding's way better.